Well, there we have it. Net stupid. Over the years, successive governments have closed coal mines mostly because production was not needed and sometimes because of fears of pollution, which is fair enough. There were 26 open-cast sites in 2014, mainly in Scotland. And back then, most coal was used for generating electricity and making steel. Less was being used for heating our homes because, again, of fears of pollution. It was also used for fertilisers, chemicals, plastics, medicines, road surfaces, etc. Unfortunately, since then, a madness has taken over, and it's called net zero. The notion that we can make our carbon emissions zero. And in the pursuit of this ludicrous aim, we've got rid of the last coal mines. Here's Ed Miliband proudly presiding over the closure.
Last night was a historic moment for Britain's energy system because after 142 years, the last coal-fired power plant at Ratcliffe-on-Soar shut down. I want to pay tribute to the workers there.
Yes, very good. Instead, we offset our emissions to China, who are building coal mines at a rate of knots. The Chinese make 1 billion or 1,000 million tonnes of coal a year. We make just 4 million tonnes. We've deindustrialised ourselves. We've decided on no new oil and gas wells. Didn't Ed Miliband order the sealing of Britain's final shale gas well, the one in Lancashire? No fracking way. So instead, we import it, which has huge carbon footprints. There was the closure of the UK's oldest oil refinery, Grangemouth, expected to result in the loss of approximately 400 jobs out of the 2,000 based at the site. But don't worry, there'll be green jobs in the future, whenever that is and wherever that means, or wherever they are. Here is what Secretary of State for Scotland, Ian Murray, had to say on the matter.
It's absolutely devastating what's happened at the refinery and the loss of 400 jobs, but this growth deal in the medium term, the short term stuff we're putting in to support the workforce immediately at the refinery, and also Project Willow, which is the long term platform for what the Grangemouth site, the whole site, not just the refinery, can do in the future, whether it be biofuels or biorefinery, etc. So all of that is a joint endeavour from the company, the Scottish Government, the UK Government, the Council, to try and bring all that together. But you're absolutely right. Falkirk College is here today. Our colleges, our higher education sector are meshed into this process as well.
And we sold off the bastion of our steel industry, British Steel, to Chinese operator Jinje, I hope I said that right, who, guess what, aren't that interested in keeping our industry alive as they have plants in China, I hear. They warned the government that they are running out of the coking coal needed to keep the furnaces on, and as we don't have any facilities to make it ourselves anymore, and even though the operator is a private business, we would have to bail them out in some way. Apparently, Jinje said the furnaces are no longer financially viable. They've probably worked out that once the blast furnaces are switched off, then we'll have to buy from them anyway in China. Instead of being able to produce our own coking coal, we have created a situation which we've inflicted on ourselves. We would now have to import coking coal from somewhere like Japan, which takes approximately 45 days, I think, and by that time the blast furnaces could have gone out, and from what I understand, once that happens, they cannot be switched back on. The governments are now sitting today, so Saturday, in Parliament, to create new laws to give them the power to take ownership of British steel. We've even strangled our car industry by punishing it. If EV targets are not met, then a charge of £15,000 a car is levied, although this week the government generously announced they'll reduce that to 13. How good of them? It is time to end this net zero madness. We are one planet, so wherever the emissions occur, it contributes to global CO2 levels. So there's no point trying to look good by destroying industry in this country for an impossible and frankly pointless grandstanding target. Nothing short of nationalising our steel industry is acceptable. So joining me in the studio is the Director for the Climate Media Coalition, Donncha McCarthy. Donncha, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Now, you've heard what I've said. It is time to end this madness, surely. It doesn't make sense, does it?
There are 10,000 jobs in the steel industry. There are 30,000 in the oil industry.
Yes.
The CBI produced a report last month that said there are 1 million jobs in the green economy already.
Which are where, sorry? In this country? Just
in the UK.
Where?
In the case, including the solar industry, the insulation industry, the wind industry, the EV car industry.
That's all great. Where are we going to get the steel from?
So,
Are you saying
so just saying, first of all, dealing with the economic point of view,
Yeah,
there are a million green jobs already. And the interesting thing about those green jobs, the CBI said that on average, they pay £5,000 more than the median jobs in the UK. So that's good news.
Are these jobs like net zero manager?
No, they're
manager of net zero.
There are people.
Like
there are people like installing solar panels on industrial sites. There are people in installing the wind turbines off the coast of Britain. There are people insulating pensioners' homes so that they actually have lower bills. There are a million green jobs already.
This is not the point.
It's a huge part of it.
This is not. No. But this is not the point I'm making. The point I'm making. That's great.
Good.
But I suspect you need steel
Yes.
for many of those things. So why would we outsource that?
So the first point I want to deal with is the economy. We are dependent now on a million jobs on the green economy. It's a real plus for Britain. On the steel point, what has happened with steel is 30 years ago, Margaret Thatcher sold it off, and the Chinese and the Indians bought it. They did not invest over the last 30 years. And so what we now have is 30-year-old clapped out coal-fired plants that are not economic. They cost nearly £1 million a day in losses for the Chinese and Japanese, so for the Indians. So what has happened across the rest of the world is they moved to electric arc furnaces.
Not all of them, no, and China in particular haven't.
Britain.
Be honest, that's not true.
No, I'm sorry. If you look
true.
at the global table of countries that produce steel, Britain's at the bottom in terms of nearly all our coal comes from coal.
You know,
in the United States,
you and I both
it's
know.
70%.
You and I both know that
electric arc
furnaces cannot produce virgin steel.
So
you know that, and we also they can use recycled steel. Nobody's saying that you couldn't have electric arc furnaces to produce recycled steel, but we need virgin steel for certain things. That we need very strong virgin steel. We need the capacity to be able to do.
The most high quality steel in Britain is produced by what? By electric arc furnaces. Where? In Rotherham and in Sheffield, who produce such good steel with electric arc furnaces for our nuclear power, for nuclear submarines and for nuclear power stations. The thing that's
using
missed...
recycled steel.
No. This is using electric arc furnaces, producing the top quality steel.
To make virgin steel. I'm talking about virgin steel. Top quality steel is a different word to virgin steel. So I'm being very clear.
Yes.
Virgin steel.
Yeah,
You're saying that electric arc furnaces can make virgin steel.
No, I'm saying they're producing top quality steel required.
Okay, but let me just
and the second point,
let me just be clear. I think it's virgin steel that we're...
Yeah, okay, sure, but our requirement for virgin steel is small. The United Kingdom uses around 7 million tonnes of steel a year, okay? Do you know what we do every year? We export 10 million tonnes of used steel to Turkey, and then we import back 60% of our steel. So what will happen when we move to electric arc steel is that we will start producing more of our steel in the United Kingdom. We will stop exporting it. It's mad what's happening at the moment.
OK, what is mad is removing the ability to create virgin steel. And you know that. And you also know that electric arc furnaces cannot do that.
They can.
No, they can't.
They can. Sorry.
Where is it they can do this?
Sorry, I apologise. I misspoke there. Where we can, how you produce, if you want a small amount of virgin steel, how you produce it...
A small amount, that's the point.
That's right.
You only make a small amount, you know.
Yes, so a small amount is what you do like they're doing in Sweden, Sweden is where we import our iron ore from. What are Sweden doing? They're moving to green hydrogen furnaces to produce virgin ore. We could do that in Scotland, where we are currently dumping, Nana, £1 billion a year of free electricity because we can't use it.
Because the wind turbines aren't very good, are
No, because we're producing so much.
Too much, and we don't have the facility.
Exactly, we don't have the green furnace there. So if we have a green furnace producing green hydrogen steel, that solves the small problem of actually virgin steel. But the key problem is electric arc furnaces use a fifth of the workers and 80% less energy. So in other countries, the reason why they're so uneconomic in Britain is, for example, electric arc furnaces in America, they use 80% less workers. So unfortunately, with progress and efficiency, you end up losing workers, and workers have to find new jobs in the green economy.
Listen, as you said, there are loads of jobs in the green economy, so that won't be a problem, will it, Donica? You said there's over 1 million jobs in the green economy, and then you said the other jobs, there's not much in there. So there would be no problem finding new jobs. So let's just get that out of the way. The problem is that many of the jobs that you're talking about, so in electric arc furnace, powered by hydrogen or whatever, doesn't exist. We haven't got that here. So you don't remove your only ability to create virgin steel when you don't have the ability...
Well, that's
no, let me finish.
That's what the government's doing today, yeah, sure.
You don't do that. It's very foolish. Nobody's saying that if you've got a better technology that can do the same thing more efficiently and cheaper and in a better way and more environmentally friendly, everyone would vote for that.
Well,
but the bottom line is, we don't. And whilst we don't have that, and even if we did, we probably wouldn't even own it. And that's the problem again. We need to own these things.
OK, well, we're actually agreed that actually if we can produce steel cheaper and cleaner and more efficiently, we could do it. That is what's happening in Port Talbot. They're already building the electric arc furnace in Port Talbot.
So that's happening.
I'm actually, there is actually a lot of agreement here. And in Scunthorpe, they have the planning permission for the new electric arc furnaces. The government hasn't agreed the deal. And so what the government's doing today is agreeing with you, is we should not close down the last plant producing virgin steel whilst we haven't built the new ones. And so, therefore, the problem is, in the 2 years to 3 years that we're waiting to build that plant, which should have been built 5 years ago, the government's going to have to spend £1 million a day subsidising those jobs, and that's a real problem for us taxpayers.
All right, so to me the real problem is even if we create an electric arc furnace that can create virgin steel, which I haven't heard of one that can, to be honest with you, Donica, but even if that were the case, my problem is the fact that it'd be owned by a foreign owner, and I don't see why these things, vital infrastructure, should even be sold off. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. And then when they are sold off, when they start getting into problems, because we realise it's vital infrastructure, then we, the taxpayer, have to pick it up.
I mean, I have sympathy for what you're saying, but the problem then is we taxpayers would have to put up the £1 million a day that Tata Steel were putting in to keep Port Talbot going, and the 700,000 that Jingia were going. That's a huge problem for us.
I have no problem with that because we pay £8 million a day.
I would see the money better going into something positive.
I have no problem with that because we pay £8 million a day for people who come here via dinghy. I would rather be paying for that. Donica McCarthy, I hope I've given you a fair crack at it. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No. I think the bottom line I would like to make is that if, with the electric arc furnaces, Britain could be almost independent in steel, and that's something exciting to have.
Well, it depends if they own the arc furnaces, once again. You're not independent...
But in terms of we'll produce all of our own steel.
Yeah, but so what? If you don't own it...
it's important for those workers.
For the workers, maybe, but there were plenty of workers in the steel...
Do you know, at the moment, there are thousands of people in Turkey working on our scrap steel, processing it, and we're importing it back. So why shouldn't we have British workers doing it rather than Turkish workers?
Well, the bottom line is that we should own that. So we would have our own people in our own country owning it. So we'll decide how it runs, and it won't happen. And if the government are in charge of it in some way, not that they run it, but
it looks like the Labour government are doing what you want.
Well, that's the only thing that needs to be done, and I think it's what most people want. Donica McCarthy, thank you very much.